sure that I recognize that person up there. Anyway, it's not about me. I'm very uncomfortable when the attention is on me because I like to work behind the scenes. I don't know if you noticed what just happened there, but when I first got involved with the Innocence Project, it was, Northern California Innocence Project, and a lot of the Innocence Project at that particular time were acting as silos, and there weren't that many opportunities and that many chances for them to kind of interact and relate together. But if you see here, in the Constitution Center, on behalf of the Pennsylvania Innocence Project, we have the Northern California Innocence Project represented. We have New York here, we have New Jersey here, we have Wisconsin here. I mean, this is basically what our forefathers did. We are on hallowed ground. And yes, I admit it, I am on a mission. But there's a lot of stories like mine across the nation. I represent the wife of the person who's been wrongfully convicted. I'm the face of the family members snagged in this. I'm on a mission because I want to give their stories voice. I want to sharpen the lens with which we look at them. I want to collect them. I want to analyze them. And I want to bring them to this country's legal scholars and statesmen and stateswomen to effect some meaningful change. Why do I want to do this? Because if we consider ourselves a civilized society, we're better than this. We can do much better. Safeguards are needed so no innocent citizens or their families should shoulder and buckle under the stress of looking down the often misguided barrels of the full arsenal of our government. 1 in 10. That's the number that Kirk Bloodsworth alluded to. That's the statistic that you usually hear, because for every 10 individuals on death row, there emerges one innocent one. 1 in 10. So why are we so comfortable with that statistic? There's no other sector in society where we accept it. If 1 in 10 babies were kidnapped out of a maternity ward, you better be sure that security procedures would be swiftly put in place. Or if 1 in 10 cars exploded on our freeways, there would be immediate recalls and a redesigning of parts. And if, of course, 1 in 10 airplanes fell out of the sky in our metropolitan areas, well, the FAA would be all over that one. The problem with our current system, as good as it may be, maybe it's the best in the world, even though we grant billions of tax dollars for its operation, there is no overarching FAA which rushes to the scene to analyze innocent cases which are emerging from that conviction abyss. And I want to change that. But 1 in 10 is not the whole story. There are lots of wrongful convictions that are not death penalty cases. And we don't, as of yet, have our arms around that statistic. And that's why I really enjoy working with Sam at the National Exoneration Registry. Because to date, his project is only a year old. And he's uncovered greater than 2,000 wrongful convictions that have resulted in exonerations. He's profiled online 1,100 of them, and I encourage every one of you to go online and look up the National Exoneration Registry and read the cases. They're very one-page kind of synopsis. The other thing is that we also know, and you've heard tonight, that 300 cases are DNA exonerations. Those are also included in Sam's statistics. But I have some wonderful news for Sam and for all of you. And I was talking to Maddie DeLone tonight, and the FBI and the DOJ, Department of Justice, just approached the New York Innocence Project for assistance for some outdated forensic science where they would like assistance in examining over 20,000 cases where the forensics may be faulty. So Sam, we're going to be busy. And just to let you know that those statistics don't even address the juvenile system. We're not even looking at that yet. And of course it doesn't address wrongful convictions that are dismissed because of insufficient evidence or improper arguments or jury instructions. Those are sometimes kind of classified in some technical problem. But I want to stand here tonight and say that from every innocent citizen and every family member of theirs, no constitutional violation should ever be considered a technicality. So based on the forensic science front, it's my prediction that science, specifically forensic and social sciences, as well as the emerging fields of big data analysis, engineering, that's going to begin to take center stage in the future criminal justice reform. So we're going to be busy. And I want to just give a call out to Ambassador Joe Torsella of the United Nations, who's in this room. May I be so bold as to stand here and dream that after we collect these exoneration cases for 1 or 2 more years, I propose that we come to the United Nations with an innocence delegation to tell our stories, to give them voice, and formulate a commission of justice that, just like the very FAA, would be needed, something like that in criminal justice. So the seed is planted, Ambassador. So that's the end of my statistics and my soapbox. I'm actually here and I accept this award on behalf of the families of the wrongfully convicted. There are currently no stats on them. They don't fare well. They have no voice. They have no legal standing. They have problems with trust. They are afraid to speak out. They hold the anger that the prisoners don't hold. They need to shed it. It's not safe for someone who's incarcerated to hold the anger. So the family members hold it. But they buckle under the stress. Their kids act out. They get pregnant. They resort to drugs, alcohol, eating disorders. Some are depressed, violent, others commit suicide. Their parents swallow the stress. And that just manifests in heart disease, cancer, stroke, anxiety, depression, and suicide as well. Now I just spatted out a whole bunch of medical diagnoses, and I want you to know that I know people that have those things. And for some reason, because of what I went through, many people who are wrongfully convicted and their families somehow find me. And I counsel them as best I can. In fact, there's a hotel in San Francisco where I take them to tea, and it's become a somewhat common occurrence. We take the booth in the corner, and the servers see that that happens, and they just discreetly put a tissue box right there. After Frank's conviction, I watched my daughter implode. She cursed the God who didn't answer her prayers. She became temporarily an agnostic. She was angry. She wanted to punch and destroy things. I watched my dear dad, after the conviction, his jaw clenched, his arm pumped with his fist, and I watched my mom collapse in tears. My dad wrote to the judge. He said, "Take me instead." But the government instead piled on, as Frank said, 12 more civil lawsuits, and then they banned it from the securities industry. It was so unfair. It was so unnecessary. My dad spent 3 hours on the phone trying to console me. We fought so hard, and they played so dirty. He kept telling me, "I raised you to be strong. You will win in a higher court." And he was right. But he didn't live to see that. He died of a massive heart attack that very next morning. And so I sat writing my letter to the judge, pleading for leniency during his sentencing, and the same day I wrote my dad's eulogy. But I have emerged. Like he said, I'm feeling strong. And part of that strength is from my mom and all my family who supported us through this, and who actually took me to this very square many decades ago, when the Liberty Bell wasn't kept in a cage out there, and it was kept at Independence Hall, and there were no ropes, and there were no barriers, and no signs that said "keep off," and kids were encouraged to sit on the chairs that John Adams sat in, and Thomas Jefferson, to explore the inkwell where they wrote those words, "We the people." And those are the images that sustained me. And so this is very symbolic for me to be here with you tonight. And I thank all of you from the bottom of my heart. My family thanks you. And we will continue to forge on for those who don't, for those who can't. And I dedicate this award to my dad and my mom. Philly Strong. Thank you very much.